This is Rumi. Rumi, the great Sufi mystic, walking home from the market carrying a goose, is attacked by two thieves. They steal the goose and run off. Rumi laughs and shouts after them, "Ha ha, you may have the goose, but I have the recipe." This is an exchange. I had someone write it down because this was with Kitty. This is a typical Kittyism. The person wrote, before coming to Baba in 1967, I spent most of my time and energy suffering and worrying in between my meditation and prayer time. After knowing of Baba, I began repeating his name and often recommended meditation, but was still actively suffering and stressed out. I had this idea that if I could only just know what my problem was, it would all go away. A few months later, I came to the Mayor Center for the first time, and in meeting Kitty Davies, she said to me, "Do you know what your problem is?" This is Kitty. Sometimes she would just say stuff. "Do you know what your problem is?" Finally, I thought I would get the answer and the relief. What, I answered, "You think too much about yourself." Thinking about Baba's repetitions and meditations I was doing, I replied, "No, I don't." And Kitty's response was, "There you go again, thinking about yourself." It's just typical Kitty. Now, this is Adele Walken was a wonderful, wonderful lady, and she was one of the young people that came and served Norina and Elizabeth and Nadine Tolstoy and some of them in New York. And she and Phyllis Frederick. So now here she's 97. And she's asked, I almost lost. When asked if she was feeling Baba around her, she's 97, Adele Walken said, "Sometimes I feel nothing but Baba. Everything else is irrelevant. All I'm trying to do now is make Baba feel at home." Beautiful.
Yeah.
This is Rabia, who later became Baba Jan. "Dear one, how long will you keep pounding on an open door, begging to be let in?" How long will you keep pounding on an open door, begging to be let in? Now, usually some nights, Marge Cucci is on, and also Jack Burke. And this is something that Jack Burke wrote. "If I knew what I was doing, I'd be a millionaire. For once, my ignorance has served me. Now I can spend my waking hours discovering a million ways to please the beloved." If you, this is Rumi. "If you want to know the way, follow the footprints of the saints and prophets." And
Jeff, would you read that one from Jack again, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
"If I knew what I was doing, I'd be a millionaire. For once, my ignorance has served me. Now I can spend my waking hours discovering a million ways to please the beloved." Quite nice. And this is the last one. This is Kabir, who was a perfect master from northern India. "Are you looking for me? I'm in the next seat. My shoulder is against yours. You will not find me in mosque or temple or cathedral. When you look for me, you will see me instantly. You will find me in the most humble dwelling, this very moment." So I think some of you, if some of you don't have the little message I send out before these late night chats, maybe Jasima could take them down if you send them into the chat. That way you could be contacted. So the topic for this, for tonight was thanks to Dyan of Dyan and Terry fame, and to share a story. Now the story can be, you know, something from Baba's own life that's particularly meaningful to you or touching. It can be an exchange you had with one of the mandali that was particularly meaningful, or it could be any kind of experience or incident you had in your life that was life-changing, that turned you in a valuable way, in a way you'd like to go. So, and you can read it if you feel more comfortable. That's perfectly fine. And I just want to mention that on Tuesday, I've invited Pratap Ahir to come. And he is one of the few, there are only two left from that Pune Bhajan group that were Baba's musicians. They entertained Baba all the way from about 1950 till the very end. They did all those beautiful songs. Most of them are in Hindi that we don't understand, but they're very touching. So he's going to share, here's what he's going to share. He's going to share the early part when Dr. Ghani left the New Life. He stayed in this boarding house, and there were a bunch of these students that were hanging out there, and he was such a great storyteller that these kids would stay up till late at night just being regaled by him. He was, you know, because he'd known Baba since he was a little kid. You know, they were comrades, chums. So that's a very personal. He has a beautiful story. So I'm just letting you know that's on Tuesday. So is there anybody that wants to start out with a story to begin with? Good. Fred Stankus. Oh, Jaysima, you might be able to, but I think Fred Stankus is first.
Hello, everybody. Chai Baba.
Yeah.
This takes me back to my first trip to India in 1971, this September. And I was working in the airline business, and I had these passes I could fly to India. On my way to India, I said, we're going to stop at Hong Kong. Gives me a chance to see the sights in Hong Kong. And so I went to a tavern in Kowloon and met a woman, spent the night with her, and I continued on to India. And my first stop was after the trust, a rickshaw driver took me to see Mehrabad and meet Padre. And I felt so guilty about what I did. I told Padre. Padre looked at me and said, do you think he'd have you here if he didn't want you here? Go up the hill now and put your head down on Baba's Samadhi. So that was my introduction. And then onto Mehrabad. To Mehrabad. And Erich greeted me. And he took me into Mandali Hall. And being of a Catholic descent, a former altar boy, I genuflected in front of Mayor Baba's chair in Mandali Hall. And Erich put his hand on my neck to basically tell me to put my head down on the cushion. Honey, can you please close the door? Thank you. And so I did that. And then so I was then taken, please keep Callie outside. I was taken to Mara's porch.
He's going to continue until Betty.
And Mara's porch, I was introduced to Mara by Dr. Goher. And when Mara came out, I prostrated myself before her. And Mara was quite emotional about it. She said, no, no, only for beloved Baba. And after my stay in India at that time, but on the day I was leaving, I just felt innocently to ask her a question. I said, Mera, are you the same as the Blessed Virgin Mary? I was alone on the Merazad porch. And she said, yes, like Radha was to, like Sita was, well, Radha was to Krishna and Sita to Ram. And so those are some of the impressions. And maybe Baba didn't want me to say these tonight because my dog is Baba, Jai Baba.
No, you did. That's beautiful, Fred.
Jai Baba.
Yeah. No, your dog got in on it too. That was beautiful. Well, you know, Fred, when you prostrated before Mara, what happened after that? I mean,
I wanted to find and dig a hole to China. I just felt so embarrassed. And luckily, this warm hand touched my neck. It was Dr. Gohair, and she whispered to me, she says, Fred, we know you just arrived. You don't understand. And so without her, I don't know. I really was shook up because Mara was emotional about me doing that.
beautiful. Yeah. So she kind of cushioned the blow. So
yeah,
to speak.
Dr. Gohair was wonderful.
Yeah. No, they were so tuned in. Okay.
We have Dyan or Terry.
I think you're going to have to come back to us. I didn't know there were visual aids needed, and I need to find the visual aid.
Oh, okay. Anyone else want to venture? Oh, yeah.
Meher Darwala.
Jai Baba.
Yeah.
The very first time I had been to Mehrabad, I was wondering what is this place where I'm going. And I went there and I went to the Samadhi and I felt this is something different. And when I was going in the bus, I was just seeing on the road all like as if it's like a jungle. Where are we going? And I was very scared. I told my husband, are we going to the Samadhi or not? He said, let's just go. And that time we were going, Jimmy Khan had taken us in the bus and he told us, you just come with me. And Roshni was going to meet us at Mehrabad. So when I met Roshni, I said, where are we? I said, she just said, come and see, open your eyes. And when I opened my eyes and I saw the Samadhi and I saw that she took us to many places, I felt, okay, this is a good place. I felt that's better. And I was very pleased what Baba did for me. Took me in his right path and showed me the life. So I'm really happy. Jai Baba.
What was it like when you first stepped into the tomb?
I just felt a little bit this thing. What is this? Am I this thing? Because I've never had been in a tomb or anything. But when I went there and people said, just go down, bow down and just come back. Nothing. I just felt absolutely okay. Nothing bad. I said, because we go to our this thing, fire temple. We bow down in the fire temple. So this is the same way to as this thing, just to bow down and come back. That was it.
Okay. And you did, and Baba didn't trip you on the way out?
He was very happy with me because my name is Mayor and he was very happy.
Beautiful.
We have Dyan and Terry back.
So I have told this story before, but I love the story. So Dyan and I go to India for our first time, and 2013, and we made arrangements to see Bauji at the trust office, and we were really excited. And I could start with the piece with just go. So we go to the trust office, and we walk in, and these two women bring us to Bauji, and he gives us prasad, and we ask if we can take a picture with him, and he takes a picture. And this is the first picture.
Can you spotlight me?
Yeah, it comes out rather light. I mean,
There it
oh,
is.
there you got it. There. Oh, great.
Look at his face, though, okay? So the two ladies that bring us in to see him say these women have come a really long way, all the way from America, Baji. Can't you try and give him a little smile? So this is the next picture. Can you see it?
Yeah. It's kind of a grin.
It's whatever, but I don't know why. I just think it's the funniest thing. It's so dear that he tried, you know?
Yeah. Beautiful.
He actually gave us prasad and said every major holiday.
Yeah. Valentine's Day, birthday, everything.
So he kind of, good. He kind of set you up for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Next, we have Marian. Chihuahua Marian.
Hi, I test on you. Hi, I have a story that I wrote. I'm going to read it. And this happened somewhere in the early 1980s, and I wrote it up a long time ago. And I had originally written it for a newsletter for my training group where I learned my transformational therapy. So it might sound a little, not geared toward a Meher Baba follower, because I'm trying to write to people who don't all know about Meher Baba. So, as all great, this is called Knowing Where You Are. As all great teachers said over and over, that the key to transformation is to know where you are at any moment and accept that. The defense will then organically dissolve through this act of self-love, and the core quality will manifest. As we know, this is not always easy, and the material from the unconscious and semi-conscious needs to be brought into the light first. It is a journey, an adventure. Several years ago, I could not find anything inside called God, even though I had in the past. Meditations brought nothing, a void. I judged myself harshly because I was so identified with my body. After all, I was a spiritual aspirant and thought I should be able to find my God self within. I decided to be in the moment with my quandary. Then I sat down and wrote the following poem. I used the word Baba, the name of my spiritual master, Meher Baba, as my own higher self, not referring to the manifestation of his outer form as a human being, as a way of identifying more and more with his perfected state of consciousness. He would say to put him on as a coat and wear him each day. And this poem is called Inside Out. O Baba, my divine beloved, thou art my cloak, my capelet of love, encircling my being. Thou art my real self, my own, my heart, lungs, kidneys, each cell. How do I find thee? Where art thou? How can you be in me? I am a body. In me are organs. Do I start there? Do I first look into what I know? My toenails, my pancreas, my hair? Do I first search for you thus? I can't find an inside elsewhere. All else seems outside. Or do I look for you there in what I know? In the flowers, pink roses, in the rain and snow, on Broadway, in the very being of each soul, in the wretchedly poor and drunk and the wealthy? Do I look for you everywhere that I know? Will that lead me inside? What is inside? Please unlock the door. After this poem came from within me, I made a decision to stay with what I'm aware of, my body and everything I could see with my eyes outside of me. I began looking for God in each person on the street as a fun thing to do, imagining our souls acknowledging each other, even though our personalities walked by without recognition. I grazed through my Gray's Anatomy book and located my gallbladder, liver, and other organs. I traced all my veins through my body to see how my blood flows. I talked to my organs each day, seeing how many I could remember, and sent love to them. One day in the stillness, I heard my cells talking to me, a constant feedback. They were chattering away like the little beings in the video game Pac-Man. However, I had never listened.
Oh, wait, just a second. Can Marion, did we
Yeah,
lose
Marion,
we just lost your audio there for a second. Whoop,
Okay. Oh,
there you
where
go.
was I? Where was I?
You were talking about Pac-Man cells.
Oh, okay. Like they were chattering away like the little beings in the video game Pac-Man. However, I had never listened before. I found myself inside the cells with moons and stars and entire universes. When I came back outside, the cells told me what they wanted me to feed them and how to exercise and when they wanted rest and stillness. Starstruck with this new awareness, I realized how creativity is unlocked if one is willing to be in the reality of the moment.
Beautiful. Thank you.
next we have Hachin.
Hey, Jai Baba to everyone.
Jai Baba Mirjan.
Have to start means is my parents, my mother and my uncle, they have came to heard about Baba in 1950. And through my mother's maternal uncle, J. Venkateswar Rao, Joshua Venkateswar Rao, whom Baba used to call him as Andhra Napoleon. So through him, my mother came into Baba's fold. And actually, I feel myself pushed that I have never seen Baba first, but Baba seen me first. Because when Baba came to my maternal uncle's place in Machilipatnam on 22nd February 1954, I was in my mother's womb. And that was the day on 22nd February. I was born exactly 12 days after Baba left that place, Machilipatnam. I was born on 5th March, exactly 12 days. So my fetus was developed and I was totally on 9th month, means I've totally born. Baba's nazar fell on me on 22nd. That's where Baba sowed the seed of first of his love in me on 22nd February 1954. That's the reason I feel that Baba has seen me first. But incidentally, I've seen physically Baba on 12th April 1959. And my uncle was given a special permission to meet him on Baba's call. He has come to Guru Prasad and he took me along with him. So that because my uncle was asked to do a case for the trust deed case before the charity commissioner. So my uncle did as per the Baba's instruction. When he expressed inability to do the case, but Baba said, no, you have to do the case for them. And whatever you want to do, the points Baba has given, and to him to tell to the commissioner, charity commissioner, and as per the Baba's instruction on when, and we won the case, and then you all know that the trust deed came into the right and registered on 6th April 1959. Then we are called to the Guru Prasad Darshan. First time I had Baba's darshan, and I had the first time I touched Baba's feet. I was only 5 years boy. I didn't have maturity. Even now also I didn't have much maturity about about Baba and all that. One thing is my mother said he's our family God. So that's the reason I never tried to know more about Baba or less only hear that. When I touched Baba's feet, it was so soft and so soft, like as if I am just putting my hand on a sponge. You know, sponge means sponge. Like that. It was so soft. And then I left. When I got up, Baba touched my cheeks 3 times, just on my cheeks like that. And then, but I never felt later, much of the time when I was a boy, I just used to, when we used to go to the Babas and people used to attend that, we are all the time in a playing mood with my age group. And I was mostly I always feel that more than Baba is to be more loving towards Prasad. The Prasad they used to distribute like that. And one more instance, there are many instances to my mother. My mother, whenever my mother was asked to write to Baba even in the seclusion. And yes, Baba has given instruction to my mother to write the letters whenever, even he was in seclusion, my mother used to ask and Adi used to reply those letters. And unfortunately, those letters were not with us because it is to correspondence through Swami Satyaprakash Udaisi used to come. But later, when Swami Satyaprakash was with the so-called fraudulent perfect master, that is Meher Chaitanya, and he asked to come and take the letter. My mother said, I won't mind losing the letters, but I don't want to come there. That's the reason we didn't have that letters and correspondence. And next instance, I want to share the 1962 incident, which I can still comes onto when I close my eyes, those instances will come. When Kusum Mohkam Singh when came for darshan, he just bowed down to Baba's feet. Baba just patted on it 3 times. He just he patted. I thought Baba was beating him, but suddenly I didn't realize it. Why he has done, and Baba immediately just shown his. Baba just signal he's shown his throat like this. Then I didn't understood that time. Then because I was far away in the back on the East West gathering, and then after 50 years it was clarified by the Mohkam Singh. When Mohkam Singh went to the darshan, he just bowed down to Baba. He was suffering with the tonsils. He has got tonsils infection and all that. Then Mohkam Singh had something was in mind that Baba is silent. Hurricane Moore is a blind man. How can Hurricane Moore is to see Baba, and how Baba is to communicate to Hurricane Moore? This was the thought which came when Baba, he just bowed down to Baba. Then Baba shown his throat like this, means that in case Baba said, you are now suffering with the throat infection with the tonsils. Baba signed like this, I am the avatar of the age and I know everything. And what is going on also we know. So you are suffering with the tonsils and you won't get anything further. This is the last time you are getting the infection on the tonsils. You won't get tonsils again. And then Am says, I know everything. I can sit here. I can see the entire world. That was the expression Baba has given with a finger like this. He was just shown like this. I'll just show it. He was showing like that. I know the entire this thing, what happened in this thing. So then he himself got the answer in his inner consciousness, that Kusum Mohkam Singh, that I have given a Divya Drishti to Hurricane Moore, and that's the reason he can able to see me, and on my voice he can hear through his heart. That's what the experiences he narrated after 50 years, or that is 2012. Those I don't know why inspired me to share today. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Thank you, Meher Chand. Yeah. Anyone else want to venture out into out somewhere? Well, I'll come in here. This is in my early years with Baba. I had a sense of Baba, but I suspected something about Baba, but I never heard anyone mention it. I never heard anyone talk about this particular thing. But then I was in New York in, I think in 1970 or 1971, and Sarosh, one of Baba's mandali, came over to America. This is after Baba dropped his body, and he shared his life, with a few of us. And but this is the story that he told as I remember. I don't know how many years ago that was, 70, so that's 50 years ago actually. So anyway, he was one of the early mandali. He was just 18 when he joined Baba. he grew up in Ahmednagar, and he was the cousin of Adi Kairani, and he was also the cousin of Khurshid. And and the first ashram that Baba had was Manzili Mim, and the men all set out from Pune, walked all the way, pretty much all the way to Bombay. And and there's a very strict life there in the, you know, in Manzili Mim. And actually, I mean, I remember Saroj saying that, you know, they would go out into Bombay and they weren't allowed to read anything, no signs or anything. I mean, just imagine going somewhere and not reading anything. But also, if you ran into somebody that you knew previously in your life, you had to act like you didn't know them. And he ran into a friend of his, and he just, you know, he just like didn't acknowledge him at all. And he's like, "You crazy? You don't, you know me? You're Saroj, aren't you?" know? And he just, you know, he had to just play like he didn't know. I mean, very difficult. But anyway, that just kind of gives you a little flavor of Manzili Mim. But at the end of about 9 months, Baba had each of the men come in for an interview. And at that point, they could decide what they wanted to do, whether they wanted to continue with their college, if they wanted to stay with Baba wherever he was going next. And in the case of Saroj, he was engaged to be married to Vilu. And so Baba, you know, gave the permission to marry Vilu. So so the marriage was arranged, and Saroj wound up moving to Nasik and began his early married life. And he got the franchise, I think, for the Chevrolet dealership. And actually, as I recall, a couple of years went by as he was kind of adjusting to his married life and his business venture. And so after a couple of years, he came to see Baba, and Baba was, I pictured it as some bungalow where Baba was in a very good mood, and the men of Mandali were there, and Baba was relating to the men, but he kept overlooking Saroj. You know, he'd relate to this person and be playful with them, and then he'd go to the next person, and all afternoon he kept overlooking Saroj. And finally, at the end of the afternoon, Saroj, he was a big, strong, healthy, manly guy. He comes up to Baba and says, "Baba," he's weeping. He said, "Baba, you know, I've been here all afternoon and you haven't even acknowledged that I'm here." And Baba said, "Now you know how I've felt all these years that you haven't come to see me." And Baba said, "Now look in your heart." Saroj looked in his heart and he saw Baba in his heart and fainted, and they carried him off, overpowered. But the thing that I suspected is that Baba feels things even more than we do. You know, it's not like, oh, well, he's God, and he feels all the pain and hurt and everything. He just doesn't have the defensive ego to protect himself. But that's what I suspected, that Baba feels things far more than we do, even the hurts and the wounds, the neglect and everything. But he just doesn't react. He has no ego to react with. So that was that revealed a side of Baba that was very meaningful in my relationship with Baba. He's not just up there kind of invulnerable to everything, but I would say most vulnerable. Anyway, that's my story. Yeah.
We have Tony. Give over, Tony.
Hey, Baba, can you hear me, or should I turn off the air conditioner? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, a little closer to the...
A little closer.
Yeah.
Just come a little bit.
Little closer.
I saw the subject for tonight and I thought, you know, I've got so many Baba stories. I was afraid I was not going to be able to think of one, and that's what was happening. But I remembered that I had back in like 1996, I had collected a bunch of them. I'd shared them on the listserv. So here's one. I'll try to edit it as I read it. It's called Ralph and the Red Herring. Ralph works at the UN, where he helps to see to it that official recordings are made of all the open meetings held there. He's been doing this as long as I've known him, and we met back in '82 when I started working at the UN. From the start, Ralph and I had an instant rapport. Though not a, quotes, Baba lover, he clearly liked Baba. Over the years, he would ask me about my trips to India, often with a wistful look in his eyes. He was always eager to hear my latest Baba stories, and I have quite a few. And when my personal life threw me into an unexpected odyssey a year or so ago, I discovered in Ralph, as in many others, a real friend. In expressing his appreciation of Baba, Ralph once told me, Mayor Baba was my first master. I never know what to make of statements like that, so I let it be. But it came up again about a week or so before Christmas this year, when we ran into each other in the cafeteria and sat down for a cup of coffee and some conversation. We talked about the holidays, the UN, even William Butler Yeats. For the first time in years, he repeated that Mayor Baba was my first master, and went on to explain. It seemed that back in the late 60s in Berkeley, he and some friends would get together once a week for several hours to study the discourses. This went on for several months until they drifted apart. I knew it, I said. I'd always felt a solid Baba connection with Ralph, and now I knew why. His contact with Baba was not as casual as he'd made it sound. When he asked what I meant, I said that when one establishes a link like that with the avatar, it always remains a vital presence within oneself, even if one chooses not to look at it for a while. His story merely confirmed what I'd always felt. Ralph backed off a bit. To be fair to me, he said, he could not say he believed Baba was the avatar. I realized my spontaneous enthusiasm had been a bit threatening, so I backed off too. After all, what did it matter? Ralph clearly had a connection with Baba, and whether he believed Baba as the avatar or not was a moot point, I felt, and I went on to say so. Prefacing what I was about, I said to him, it sounds like something you'd hear on the McLaughlin Group, this political discussion thing on NBC. But really, Ralph, the question of whether Baba is the avatar is just a red herring. And we carried on our discussion from there. When I returned to my office, a phone call was waiting for me. I'm not sure always what's coming next in this because it's so long ago.
Yeah.
When I returned to my office, a phone call was waiting for me from a colleague's fiance who is a doctor. A family member died recently, possibly as the result of fatal negligence. This friend had offered to review the hospital report. The issue at question concerned blood type, and when I asked him about it, he said promptly, the question of the blood type is just a red herring. Interesting, I thought. 2 red herrings in the span of 15 minutes. An interesting coincidence, no doubt, but surely nothing more. That evening, I went to hear Marianne Williamson speak at Town Hall. The presence in Town Hall for her talks is like a big Baba meeting, and there are often a few Baba lovers in the crowd. After her talk, she takes questions, and when the program is over, she usually hangs around to speak personally with those who still need to talk. I like to stay and listen. During the formal question and answer period, a question came from her own sign language interpreter. This woman was Christian, her husband Jewish, and they recently had a baby boy. Religion was not a problem for them until she was asked if her child could play the baby Jesus in a Christmas play. As a Christian, it meant a lot to her. As a Jew, her husband drew the line. Marianne, both a Jew and a lover of Christ, gave a powerful, insightful answer. Her answer satisfied the person concerned, but the issue pressed some buttons for those in the audience. One of these came up later, after the talk, to make her case, as I stood nearby and listened. Marianne's point was clear. The real issue was the wall between the woman and her husband. The spiritual challenge was to let it be dissolved through love by truly surrendering the problem to God. As for the Christmas pageant itself, she said, really the whole thing about the baby Jesus is just a red herring. Okay, Baba. Now it was unmistakable. This was no mere coincidence. Here was your hand, plain and easy to see. This realization filled me with the bliss of your presence, which filled town hall as I continued listening to the other questions. It was a wonderful evening, and when I got home, it was nearly 11:30 p.m. My brother had left me a message to call him, so I did. He wanted to know what the doctor said. I related the entire conversation, which led me to blurt out, "What the hell is a red herring anyway?" I didn't really expect an answer, but he took me quite seriously and looked it up in the dictionary. Well, it seems the herring was used to throw dogs off the scent when they were on a hunt. It would be painted red and placed at the crossroads. Between its bright color and striking smell, the dogs would be completely distracted and either lose the trail entirely or run off in the wrong direction. Interesting. But still, I stubbornly refused to see any personal meaning in all of this until I got off the phone. It was now 12:30 a.m. I should have gone straight to bed, but instead I turned up the sound on an HBO movie called The Juror's Story. It's about a juror on a case involving a mafia big shot who threatens to kill her and her child if he is convicted. Although everyone expects a quick, easy conviction, she drags out the deliberations, resulting in a hung jury. So here I am in the living room. I hang up the phone, turn up the TV, and find myself in the jury room as this woman makes a far-fetched case for the defendant's constitutional rights. At this, the jury foreman crosses over to her and says, "Look, this whole thing about his constitutional rights is just a red herring." This is all one day, right? Okay. So let's see.
Yeah.
I love this because it's so long ago that I've forgotten the details.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, Baba, I can be slow, but eventually, with your patience and persistence, I get it. I looked at your photo and finally just asked you. Funny how that's all it ever really takes. That's so true. What is this all about, Baba? What are you trying to tell me? What do you want me to hear? It's amazing how quickly you answer when we ask the right question. Suddenly I remembered my conversation with Ralph. I had said the question of your avatarhood was, quote, just a red herring. Well, quote, well, if my avatarhood is a red herring, then everything is a red herring. How could I have failed to hear you say this when you make yourself so clear? A few days later, someone pointed out that, in fact, everything is a red herring. Finally, your point was clear. Indeed, in life, everything is a red herring except the question of your avatarhood. Truly, the Christhood of the Christ, the one self which we all share, is the only reality, I'll add the only thing that's not a distraction, and the only question worth pursuing. Could it be that it is only you I love and fear in everyone? Could it be that the walls... Okay, blah, 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 blah. After some deliberating about this, I decided to pass the story on to Ralph, who thoroughly enjoyed it. And now I was sharing it with the listserv. But then a short while later, I put, interestingly, this was not the end of the story. A few days before I signed on to the listserv, I guess, the following exchange took place. There was a posting by a Baba lover by the name of Gary Cook, who incidentally said he was the guy who created the gay flag based on Baba's flag, but just inverting it. And first walked with it in the Gay Pride March in San Francisco. He's disappeared. I don't know where he is since these days. But he wrote this note. He said, thought I should say something. Today I ran across a prospect file in a database I use at the office. The database file contains 20,000 plus names. Leads are assigned. The file I saw today, I noted that I had last contacted on Friday, the 5th of January. The name of the prospect is R. Herring. I didn't think too much of it, except the obvious first impression one gets when sees such a name as red herring. How many red herrings can sit on the head of a pin, he asks. So, there's still more. There's still more. Okay, I gave some answer there. and I enjoyed the exchange, and I finished with the listserv, and I got online. And these were early days of the internet, and I was suddenly thinking about an old girlfriend, the first person I ever fell in love with. And I was wondering, if I search for her name, might I find it on the internet? I wonder what the hell happened. I hadn't seen her since 1970 something. So I started improvising with search parameters. And only a few hours after posting my reply to Gary Cook's item, Ralph and the Red Herring, I did a name search for this old girlfriend, which yielded 6 links. Of these, the last one, the information source, sounded intriguing. So I clicked on it. And that transferred me immediately to the Red Herring homepage. And it goes something like, no kidding, it had the words, the Red Herring homepage at the top of the page in bold black letters, flanked on either side by a flaming red herring swimming down and away from it. Like that kind of. All right. And underneath in bold black letters appeared the intriguing question, not what you were looking for? Followed by a definition of red herring, something used to divert attention from the basic issue, and 2, of a false diversionary clue. And that's it. I guess that's how Baba drew it to a close. And I wrote this little book collecting my Baba stories at the time called Red Herrings.
Yeah, wow.
Sorry if that was very long,
Yeah.
but I didn't, yeah.
No, and we're going to throw some red herrings in your grave as you're lowered.
You're a good storyteller, Tony.
Baba's given me so many good, beautiful, wonderful stories, and I am very grateful.
Jay Baba. We have Wendy next.
Wendy.
I wasn't sleeping. I just forgot I had to click something. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. This is a story. It was our first trip to India. I believe it was 1991. And we arrived there, did some things, yada, yada. Then Martin wanted to take me up to the Samadhi and just sit in the Samadhi. So up we went, and we went into the Samadhi, and I'm sitting there. And as you know, at that time you could sit in, and there's probably maybe 3 on each side. I think it was something like that anyway. And so I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden it started to rain. Which it often does well, I don't know, in the summertime. It was in July. It was just torrential. And anyway, I heard in my head, go and dance in the rain. And I was like, So I stayed for a bit. Then I heard it again. And so I tapped Martin on the shoulder because I didn't know what the protocol was. I was quite a newbie at that point. I said, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here. I said, can you come out with me? And he said, no, I'd like to stay here. And I was like, oh, not the answer I was looking for. But anyway, so I leaned back again, and then I heard it again, and it was like, okay. Now, just a little piece with the rain. When I was a child, I loved to go out and dance in the rain. It used to drive my mom and dad crazy. Anyway, so I went out, and I was going to go out and then go by, but there was an Indian woman there who was on Samadhi duty, and she's going, no, you can't go out right now, and I'm going, now what do I do? So I went back into Baba's Samadhi and sit down. I'm no sooner down, go and dance in the rain. I was like, okay. So I go, and if any of you, remember it, before the women mandalis tombs were there, you could slide out in that direction. So, because I didn't want to deal with her again, because I didn't want to, we weren't communicating well, and I didn't want to go through all of this. I slid out there. Anyway, and I'm out there and I'm kind of going down the hill and I'm dancing away, and it was just awesome. Like, it was awesome. But the mud on my clothing, my pants, the white pants, that you wear, it's just covered. I didn't care. So anyway, then I come to the railway crossing. Now keep in mind, this is my first trip, so I don't know much about all the stuff. So it's still raining. And just as I crossed the railway tracks, torrential rain. So anyway, I get across and I'm not very far over them. I'm down a wee bit. And the train went by and it was like, oh my. And it just sort of spun me, not physically, but mentally. And then it's like, where am I? What am I doing here? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not even sure where we came from. So anyway, I keep walking and there was this lovely lady that was there. I think she was the lady that did the stained glass windows for the hospital, but I'm not positive. I think it was her. Anyway, she sat with me and said, no, it's okay. Not to worry, all is fine. These things happen when you're here, and it was like, okay, so go to bed. That was the end of that night. And then the morning we go up for Artie, and Mansari, after Artie, we went to see her. And I remember going in the doorway and just thinking, oh my gosh, she's so cute. I just want to hug her. And she's telling her story. She didn't stop. I think she just said, Jai Baba. Martin and I sat down and she's telling this story. And then all of a sudden, at this one point in the story, she turned and she looked straight at me and she said, when Baba asks you to do something, you do it. You must always be obedient. And it was like, wow. And I remembered that. And from that time on, and I went many, many times to India after that, that was like etched in my brain. Be obedient. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm far from it. But wow, that was to know that I like to dance in the rain, be obedient. Yeah, that was a game changer for me. Jai Baba.
Beautiful. You might not be able to do that now, but.
No, probably not. No, not likely.
Any other?
Lots of others. I have to tell one about Mansari. Mansari really liked me. I really liked her. It was my first time in India. But actually, Padre kind of ruled the, Mehrabad in a way. You didn't cross Padre. Well, I I wouldn't leap up and dance, but I would dance with my arms, you know, and Mansari liked it. She really liked it. But then she got communication from Padre. So all of a sudden, she's turned from being very friendly with me. And then, you know, she's so tiny and she walked by me now and she'd go, gee, and she'd keep on walking. And I think, what happened? She stopped talking to me totally for days and days and days. And then finally, she started talking to me again. And she says, I needed discipline. And I thought, don't you have to know you're being disciplined? I think the timing was wrong. Anyway, that was a funny experience. I had so many experiences there, you know, everything was like, but the main thing I felt being over there, I remember being in Mandali Hall and performing something, but being in Mandali Hall with these beautiful mandali, there were so many, and of course Mara was there, and I thought, this is my spiritual family. You know, I found my family. You know, it was just, I would always know where each one was. There were uncles and, you know, and of course, Mara, you know, Mara was my all-time favorite. You know, she was just so beautiful. But all of those, and it's so funny to hear Wendy yours about dance in the rain, because you know, it's so funny because I used to think, in fact, it was my second Dooney fire. I was there like 2.5 months, and Padre knew I liked to dance with my arms, and he came up to me really like this, and he had a very strong energy. If you even see on the book, on his book. Anyway, he came up like this, real close to me, and he says, and you, young lady, no antics. You know, so I remember going to that Dooney fire, and I thought, I will dance within myself. He cannot stop me from dancing. It was very funny. Well, recently, 2 people sent me a video of that Dooney with me sitting there. It was so funny, and with Padre conducting it, because he used to, you know, ask someone that it was a woman from England to light the fire, and she was kind of fumbling, and he says, here. He was very forthright and very, very deliberate, whatever he did. You know, Padre was, it was like a purity of being deliberate, you know. And of course, you know, he was totally for Baba, you know, but I just didn't get along with the man, you know. But I had to appreciate his purity of being. Yeah, yeah. But I still disagree about the dancing, because I know he could not stop the Hammerpur people, because they dance all the time. They dance up the hill for Amartidi, you know. Anyway,
Yeah.
such a grace to be over there. That's all I can say.
Beautiful. Yeah. Next.
Next, we have Martha. Joe.
Wendy, too bad that Rosalie wasn't with you when you were dancing, because she would have been a great partner. Anytime
Double
Rosalie's
trouble.
around, if you want to dance, she's ready for anything, aren't you, Rosalie?
Now I have to say one funny thing. Phyllis Frederick, the only thing she ever told me about a past life is I was a temple dancer.
Oh,
so I'm glad she told me, because I don't let anyone stop me from dancing, you know, because it's like that's what that was, the offering was dance. Yeah. Anyway.
I know that about you, right? So my story, one of my stories, but the story I'm going to share is about thanking Baba for everything he gives and everything he takes away. This was about 10 years ago. I'd been in a relationship for, I guess, about 12 years. And I didn't live with my partner, had different places to live, but he was coming over for dinner. He was bringing food over for dinner, and we were going to have a talk. So we set stuff up, and there's candles, and it was very pleasant, and we had dinner, and we were clearing things away, and we sat down to have some tea, and he told me that he had been seeing one of my girlfriends and that he was breaking up with me. And it was such a shock. I mean, it was such a shock. I dropped to my knees. I put my head down on the ground and just started weeping.
Oh.
Just weeping and weeping. And oh my God, it was that kind that comes from your abdomen. You're just kind of weeping, you know, really strong. And it's like, oh my God, what? My heart hurt. And as I was bent over on the ground, I remembered that I had heard to always thank Baba for everything, whether it's something that's you think's positive or negative, to thank Baba. And I was crying so hard, and I was trying to make sense in my mind, and I just couldn't. And I was thinking this at the same time. It was just Baba's grace. He touched me. And I said, well, to the degree of how awful I feel, I know Baba will take me to the height of a blessing. So I started to just say, thank you, Baba. Thank you, Baba. Thank you, Baba. As I was crying, I was saying, thank you, Baba, inside. And that was a big turning point for me, as far as kind of almost a curious game with Baba now. Whenever something happens and I just get really perturbed or it's not pleasant, I pretty fast now think, oh, thank you, Baba. Thank you, Baba. And, but then it's really Baba's grace. But then I also have to remember when I'm having fun and things are going well and something's beautiful, thank you, Baba. Yeah. So I really like the saying, thank you, Baba, for everything you give and everything you take away. Because as we know, everything Baba does is from love. And I think I can still kind of remember what that man looked like, but that was a long time ago and it's in the past, and Baba's given me a lot of gifts since, that's for sure.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yep. Really. That's a deep, very deep thing. Very difficult.
I will share.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Yum, yay.
Jai Baba. You know, I'm sure so many of us who met the mandali have beautiful, beautiful stories, and they are endless. And I too feel so fortunate that I met some of them. And Aloba in particular had a very special connection with my family. And it's a long story, that's for another time. But I just wanted to share a little bit of what it was like. And here I was, I don't know, 18, 19, you know, I had my school friends and anyway, so it was, I think, one of our first trips to India. And some of you who've been to Meherzad remember Aloba's room. Even, I think most of the men lived like this, in a tiny room, just enough space for a bed and maybe a little like closet commode. And in his little room, he had a corner where he had a beautiful picture of Baba, the the one that says, I think it says, now I'm forgetting, that poster one. I don't know if you remember
You
this.
and I are not we but one, or?
No, the happiness one.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Real happiness lies in
making others happy.
That's it. And so he would have a habit of, on our behalf, going to pray to Baba. And some of you may have experienced this, where you would ask a question, I would go to Alaba with certain questions, and he would have me write down yes or no. And we would go to this little corner in his room and ask Baba. Mm-hmm. And whatever the answer came, that was it. And I'm not sure where this absolute resolve to follow what it said came, but pretty much everyone in my family, if it said whatever it was, and Alaba was right there with us. And I'm not sure if I felt that conviction because Alaba was there or not, but so one of the big questions had to do with a big life decision for me at the time, which was whether to pursue school further. And we put it to Baba, and that meant like another 10 years of schooling where I got my doctorate. So it was a big deal to me at the time to commit this many years of study. And sure enough, it came, yes, pursue that. And I'm not sure how it all happened, but there was no question in my mind as I went through all those years, even though it was really hard, that I guess that's what I'm meant to do. And it was very freeing, really, to have that decision made and just do it for the sake of that's what I'm meant to do and not ask too many questions. So that was one story, that it was through Alaba's, I guess I would say, generosity with us. And so many of the mandali were like that. You know, when we would arrive at Meherzad, Alaba would have a flask of chai waiting for us. Mm-hmm. And he would beckon us, come on, quickly, you know, go to Baba's room, always Baba first, go to Baba's room, and then come here. And he himself would serve us this chai, and it would be so sweet, and you didn't say a word, you just drank it because it was just like pure sugar. And he'd have cookies, you know, if he's offering cookies, you can't say no to the cookies. So then we'd have the cookies and we'd have this chai, and he would sometimes, you know, open a poetry from Hafiz, or it was just so sweet. Like, I think, Jeff, you mentioned like your favorite uncle. But he was so generous with his heart. And so many of the mandali were like that, as if, I don't know, like we were just this wonderful, and we didn't know each other very well. It wasn't like, you know, it was just, anyways, it was just so beautiful and so touching. And Mani the same. Yeah. And Mani in a different way. But one time I remember we were all standing in line, you know, just like couldn't wait to embrace Mani and Erich. And there was, and you didn't know which one to go. Should I go to the line for Mani, or should I go to the line for Erich? And there she was. And one time my mom was in front of me. She embraces Mani and she looks at, and Mani would speak Farsi to us. She knew some Farsi. Maybe she knew more, but it was just a little bit of the greeting. And my mother looked at her beautiful earrings and said, oh, Mani, those are such beautiful earrings. And I think they were turquoise with, it looked like there were diamonds around it. And Mani immediately took them off and put it in her hand. And she said, they are yours. Just like that. Well, like without a second, like whatever's mine is yours. You know, in Iran, we have a custom. When you have a beautiful shawl or whatever, and if you compliment someone, the gracious thing is then it's for you. If you know that if you like it so much on me, then I want to share that with you. And so I felt these small things, but were so meaningful to me as this young person. They were my role models, they still are, of just being generous. I think that's what I was so struck by their generosity of love and just wanting to offer you whatever it was, whether it was this little bit of chai and cookies, or, you know, the beautiful earrings, of course, that Mani shared. So that's all I wanted to.
Beautiful, Payam.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were the best.
Yeah.
The best on earth.
Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
I wanted to share something further because speaking of Nashwan's books, this old, very beat up book, I love this book. I wish he'd republish it. It's all private interviews between Baba and whoever, private interviews. They don't mention names, but I got fascinated with this one interview, and because I was suffering in my life, and I just identified with this interview. And one day, Jeff McGuire was in charge of the meeting. So he mimeographed all these things, and you chose one to do. And then you'd come in front of Baba's chair. We had a chair where Baba had given darshan in Hollywood. And you'd come before the chair like you were engaged with Baba. And anyway, Martha, your experience, I had that undulating thing. But anyway, it says, Baba says, anything to ask. And it's Dr. Ghani. See, this is Dr. Ghani with Baba squatting there. And can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
Clearly,
And Dr. Ghani would bring the people in. It looks like it says. And then, so Dr. Ghani says, she is in very awkward moments, fight within, fight without, disease, difficulties in profession. She feels that she fails every day. And the person was crying, holding Ghani's hand. And Baba says, I know it all and will help her. And then she's sobbing. And he says, yes, I will help you. And then Ghani says, she wants to believe in you and have faith in you. And Baba says, yes, she will feel my help. Now that she has met me, it will gradually change her outlook on life. And then the Ghani says, she believes in you, but she does not believe in herself. And Baba says, my help will make her believe in herself too. And that's the most beautiful thing in life, to have confidence in one's own self. And Ghani says, how? And Baba says, because the entire outlook is changed, and I will change it so that all these difficulties will gradually fade away. And the next question, can that really be done? She's surprised. Now she's talking. Can that really be done? And Baba says, yes. I know that I will help her to gain what I said, and everything will change. And Ghani says, is she condemned to be alone as she feels now? And Baba says, no. When the outlook is changed, she won't feel alone at all. So I'm coming to the chair. In fact, I exchanged with Jeff McGuire. His wife had that mimeograph sheet. I says, Lynn, I says, I want to do that one. I know that one. I know it. So I get up to the chair and we're going through it. And I start weeping like this undulating, volcanic weeping. not sort of crying, weeping, and no one says a word. No one said a word after the meeting was over. Of course, I stopped. I would have run out of tears, But, it's interesting. And I felt just the nature of that helplessness that was expressed in that private interview, that everyone identified with it at one point in their life or other. And, here we are all in the new life. And we feel that at times, It's just, kind of getting the gist of the new life. It's not easy. And like Eric says, life is a joy with him. Without him, it is not. Joy is living with him. This is the new life. You are living from the heart, not the mind. He is the deeper self. There is no one to love except yourself. Love yourself more and more. This is your inner being. We're straight from Erich. I love that.
Thank you. Anyone else? I mean, I know there are even like very turning points or touching things that come to mind.
We have Andy.
This was a few years back, and Rosa, some of you know Rosa, we went to India together, and we'd been there. We usually went for 2 to 3 weeks. And anyway, it was about 3 or 4 days before we were supposed to depart. And Martin called in the evening and told me that a woman who was kind of like a second mom, a mentor, just somebody who I was very, very close to, had a major stroke and was not likely going to be around too much longer. And so I got off the phone, and yes, I was, quite upset. And Rosa said, if you want, we can phone and see if we can get back, tomorrow. And I said, let's just sleep on it. And after Artie, yes,
yeah,
we're in Maribad, yes. And so anyway, I'm lying in bed that night, and I'm trying to sleep, and I'm not doing too well at it. And then I remembered this conversation that I had had with my friend Una. She was in her 80s. And she had said to me, if anything ever happens to me, will you take care of my spiritual side? I forget this other woman's name. She was a nurse. She said, she can take care of my physical, but I would really like you to take care of that side. And I went, yeah, I could do that. She spent her childhood in India, which I did not know until we'd been friends for quite some time. Her father was in the British Army there. So anyway, that morning we got up, we went up to Artie, and it was like, I know why I'm here right now. I gave her my word I would take care of her spiritual, which, I mean, I don't mean that I'm in charge of things, but I got to put her in Baba's Samadhi for 3 more days before we left. Anyway, it just felt right. Rosa and I get home. As most of you know, the flights come in late. Martin said, you're not going to the hospital tonight. She was still alive. And I said, and he said, no, we'll go first thing in the morning. So we did. And she was still alive. Martin and I did arty in the room with her, said our goodbyes, and she passed away very shortly after we left. And I was heartbroken, but I felt so good that I was able to do that for her. I mean, we talked about Baba a lot, but it was such a gift. It was another moment where I have this thing where I feel like Baba's saying to me, I've got you. I've got you. So I can endure whatever it is I need to go through. But it was a beautiful experience, sad, but again, how Baba shows up and helps us when we're at our lowest to get us through. And I was so grateful, so grateful.
Beautiful.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, Jai Baba.
Next we have Brownie.
From Melbourne, right? Is it Melbourne?
No, Adelaide.
Oh, Adelaide, yeah.
South Australia. Yeah. This is actually just a short excerpt from The Silent Word by Francis Brabazon, the small story. And it follows on nicely, I think, with what Wendy just shared with us. So I've called it, "O White and Pure Maya Baba." A young woman named Dakubai Shankar Dewani of the Sali caste, suffering from tuberculosis, came to Nagar for a change of climate. She went to Mehrabad twice and had Baba's darshan. On the second visit, Baba told her she could stay 4 days, and in that period, she had become greatly devoted to him, and subsequently, it was said, performed puja to his photo. One morning, she told her mother that she was going to Ganga, the river Ganges, to bathe in its holy waters. In the evening, she called her little daughter to her and caressed and kissed her and asked the family to look after her well. After that, she did not look at the child again. About 10 o'clock, she seemed to pass away into a deep sleep, but after a while revived and started speaking clearly and distinctly, but none of the family knew in what language then. Then with the words, she said, "O white and pure Maya Baba, release me, Ram, Ram," and she breathed her last. I just thought it's such a beautiful, beautiful story. And I drew on the, I don't know if you can see it, I drew on the opposite, a little picture of Baba holding a little goat.
Move it to your right a little bit. Yeah, beautiful. You drew that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a picture taken by Elizabeth Patterson. Yeah.
I just thought such surrender, such beautiful surrender that the young woman.
Beautiful.
showed. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I've got one story. You were talking about the tomb. And this was, I think, probably 1971 or 72. Mansari heard that this buddy of mine and I, Denny Moore, that when we were in junior high together, we used to be able to, we would walk on our hands. We could walk, you know, up steps, down steps. We could do, you know, with our, meaning on our hands with our feet in the air. We could walk. Well, Mansari heard that we were gymnasts, and she got this idea that she wanted us to go in to the tomb and take darshan of Baba on our hands. Now, now she's outside under the portico, making sure that no Easterners come up the hill. Nobody's going to witness this, but she is bound and determined to have us do it. So we got on our hands outside the portico, and my buddy, Denny, he's, steps over the threshold, maintaining his balance. And we were so good, we could go all the way to the floor and bow to Baba and then come up again. He goes off to the side. I go in, and and bow before Baba, and we come out. And Mansari is just, she's just like tickled to death, But the whole time, it was that informal back then. And it never occurred to me, and it was probably the first time that anybody's ever taken darshan of the avatar on their hands. But it was, and of course, later on it became a little more formal and everything. But back in those early years, it, Wendy dancing outside in the rain was like, things like that happened. But they weren't, Padre, I think she made sure the Padre was somewhere else. Anyway.
We have Tony again.
Tony.
Yes, not a long story. In fact, not a story at all, because all of my stories are long. This is just a little addendum to the red herring story. I realized I had printed out in this little book I put together, I had printed out the page that I wound up when I was looking for to see if I could find my old girlfriend online. That was the red herring homepage. It literally looked like that. Not what you were looking for. 1, red herring, something used to divert attention from the basic issue. 2, a false diversionary clue. Original herring drawn across the trace in hunting to divert the hounds. And he says, "What? You're still reading this? This is just a little diversionary joke. My apologies to anyone offended. Read, lacking a sense of humor." So this was Baba's joke for sure.
Yeah, beautiful. Hey, let's see. I wanted to ask Josh, Josh, any kind of pivotal moments or exchanges or something that come to mind? You can pass and everything, but there's certain moments, something someone says to you that makes a deep impression, makes a course change in your ocean liner.
It's interesting because the mandali had all passed away by the time I got to India. Yeah, nothing's really coming to mind, but it's beautiful experiences, like I remember being outside the tomb and crying outside the tomb because I felt what did I feel? In my mind's eye, they were singing songs, and in my mind's eye, I felt Baba was there, sort of burning in fire, and that we were both there burning in fire, and that he asked me to come and burn there with him. And it was just such a beautiful image that moved me to tears. I was crying in the tomb. But beautiful.
Yeah. I heard a song the other day where the line was something like, "Why do you keep following or observing the spread of negativity in the world when your soul is on fire?" It's kind of a beautiful, beautiful line. Wow. Let's see what Goer, anything come to mind for you?
Jai Baba, everyone.
Yeah.
I have a Samadhi story too, which was quite pivotal in my life as well. So back in 1971, as you say, in the early years, Jeff, when we first went for I believe it was the first Amar Tithi, and then we were there a few days either before or after, I can't remember now. But in those days, very few people were around, and one could go in the Samadhi and just sit there and, and I found myself there by myself in the afternoon sometimes, just myself in the samadhi. And the sense of peace that came over me was something that I will always, always have with me. So that sense of peace was always there. So that was in 71. I was just a teenager at that point. Then fast forward, 10 years go by, I get married, I come here to this country. We have a child, and in 1979, I find myself back in India, in Pune, and I have to go, I'm all the way in Pune. I have to go to Nagar. I cannot not go to Nagar. So, and a lot had happened in the intervening years that had spun me way down mentally. I was suffering mentally in a very bad way. So I had to go to Nagar, and it was not easy, but we made it there. But it was just for the one day. That was all the time I had. So it was myself, my husband, my little daughter, who was only 16 months old at the time, and my sister-in-law and her husband. So we drove from Pune to Nagar. And I remember just going straight from when we got into Nagar. I don't even remember if we stopped at Adi's office, but I think I remember being on the road to. So we get to Mehrabad, and as soon as we came to the bottom of the hill and I see the samadhi up there, I just asked the driver to stop. I just said, stop. And I opened the door and I kept walking up the hill. I just didn't care about the rest of them. I just kept walking up the hill. And the faster I walked, the emotions were building up, and I could feel this volcano about to burst. And I remember coming to the top of the hill, and there was Nanak here. And he comes towards me and he opens his arms and he takes me into a hug and he says, "You're home." And the minute he said that, something just broke in me. And the next thing I know, I'm in the samadhi and I'm literally howling. I mean, howling with all that pent up whatever in the last few years had just come bubbling out to the surface. And I was really just poured it all out. And my family was, behind me outside, and this was their first time at the samadhi. And they didn't quite know what to make of this and what was happening to me. And this was very strange to them, I suppose. But it was a cathartic moment for me, to be sure. It was a turning point, definitely. And so I just emptied myself. And when it was all said and done, I felt that peace again that I had experienced, many years ago. And that was it. I mean, I just, I suppose I emptied myself, and that was a turning point, definitely. So I take that, that scene with me is always there, and it has helped me in many ways. So when I'm at a low moment, I just find myself back in the samadhi, and that's my, when Baba says, when you're feeling really low and you need to dip yourself to refresh yourself in my pool of love, well, his samadhi is my pool of love. So, Jai Baba.
Beautiful.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, Erish used to say, find the samadhi in your heart. It's also there.
Yeah.
That we can always go to if we can't go externally. So, what do you think? Should we? Why don't we have a moment of silence? But we'll see if there's. I'm looking around and looking for the people that often have quotes that are handy. I want to see if I can find a Baba quote. I mean, I might have one here.
Oh, Jeff, I have one.
Okay.
And it's when Darwin, this was during 3 incredible weeks. Darwin, well, Fred Marks, Joseph Harv, and Darwin were walking along, and they were going to see Baba, and they saw Tom Riley, and they says, "Come on, we're going to see Baba." So I heard this from Tom Riley. But Baba said to them, "As my presence within you becomes more familiar to you, there will be no need for you to return to India."
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you for the stories.
Jai Baba.
Jai
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. That was great.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Jeff.
And just remember
you.
the Pratap Ahir. He's got some great stories.
Oh, yeah, Pratap.
I mean, he'll depict that period, a very unique period in Baba's life. There.
Thank you very
Jeff.
much.
Stay nice. Thank you, everyone. Lovely.
Jeff,
Yeah.
Nasreen's here. Nasreen.
Oh, yeah. We got to let her be the.
Last Jai Baba.
Yeah.
Last call.
Last call.
Last call.
Yes.
The bouncer is kicking us out of the tavern.
Yes. Avatar Meher Baba
Ki Jai.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Baba Ki Jai.
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you,
Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Thank you, everybody. Love to
all of the Americans and the Westerners have a nice sleep, and the others have a nice day.
Thank you.
You too.
Hey, Bob.
Hey,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff,
Yes.
Jeff, I would like to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
So this thing is, you have been managing for the spiritual center. I would like to ask you how you take care of this defaced or spoiled or damaged Baba photographs. What you do with that?
You mean
Baba's
how to keep the photographs?
Because when Mandali was there, just to advise me to give the bunch of photos and all that, to put it in the deep water, in the flowing water. Now it's very difficult to put in the water. And Alaba never used to allow us to put it, dug a pit and put it in this. He says, no dafan. Then few people in Hyderabad, what I do in Hyderabad is all Baba's flower garlands and photos. I just take it and put a repentance prayer, read the repentance prayer, and then put it to the Babas, to the dhuri or fire. What you do in the metal bits?
You're talking about when the photographs are
get damaged.
Or when they're damaged. Baba, one of the things Baba said is to burn them.
They're versatile.
But
that's
but you know, that's just what we do here. But I don't know if Baba said something else, something different elsewhere. But that's a one thing to do. It's very hard to do it, you know. But I even remember that if there's a frame picture and the glass gets broken, you have to put new glass in.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Baba didn't like damaged things, but some people have photographs that are well worn because they've had them for a long, long time. And they're great sentimental.
How about magazines? How about magazines like Love Street Lamppost or The Awakener? What do you do with those?
You mean if you have
if you have a supply of like 10, 20 years of magazines.
Bind it and put it in volume wise. We do that way. We just bind each year and put it in a library.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so I would like to think is Madam I used to do any photograph damage. She used to remove the frames, nails, and then glass. Then she used to take the photographs and she used to kiss the photograph, and then she used to clean the photograph, and then she put Referendum prayer and put it on her forehead, and then she used to take all the damaged photographs and used to put it in the water. She used to do.
Yeah.
Now, because of we can't put the photos or anything in the water, drinking waters, the rivers. We can't put it. We can't put those things in the jar. So why I was interested, how do you dispose of in your center, Baba Center?
Yeah. What I do is I collect all of the publications that have Baba's picture, and I save them up, and then there's the Usahavas, and I take them to the art tent, and they make collages out of them.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You know, but it's very difficult, you know, what to do with them. I don't feel good about, some of these are not, they're in good condition. You know, I don't feel like throwing them out.
But Iruch says, be natural, don't worry. Let nature, because as Iruch always says, there are 5 these things: air, water, fire, and earth. They are all important to Hindu. So anything you can do it. But Adi is very particular. Adi Kaka says, no, don't take lightly by Baba. One of the pictures Baba has given to us in 1950 to my mother, it got damaged. So Baba, what Adi said is, clean the picture, first the same pose on that, above that, with again reframe it.
Yeah, anything that Baba's given you, keep it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was ringing in my mind for a long time what to do, because many Babas, and always insist my Baba lovers to not to print Baba's pictures on the invitations, either wedding invitations or New Year greeting or anything. Just put a Baba's quote and Baba's name. That suffices.